Hello, viewers. Welcome to Lawn Plugged. Of all the interviews which I have done till today, this is the interview which I have looked forward to the most. I'm glad that we have been able to uh, land Abhijit Joshi sir into our talk show. So, for all of you who don't know who Abhijit sir is the founding and managing partner of Veritas Legal. And before this, he was the senior partner and the CEO of AZBN Partners. So, so without any further ado, let's just start with the interview. The first question to you being that I tried to ask all of my guests that what made them pursue law as a career, so as to drive motivation as to how many guests what drives them in the law and what excites them. So my first question to you is what made you pursue law as a career and what made you interested in the fields of mergers and acquisitions or private equity and wills and trusts?
I think mine is a very uninspiring way of choosing law because it happened by default. So I don't know whether that adds any motivational factor. Well, in early 90s when I did law, law was not as a chosen profession as you guys are now. It's not. It was not that tough. So actually, I didn't want to do law, but I'd lost my dad very early, and very early on, from 9 years old, I'd been to lawyers. Probably that made me think that I shouldn't become a lawyer. But ultimately, after trying a little bit, I realized that early on, whatever subconsciously, I developed an interest. And then I started doing law, and that's where I landed. And that time, um, I was lucky that I got a job in Amarchand Mangaldas then. It was a small setup here at Lenton Chambers. There were 4 or 5 juniors. That's it, one single office. Yeah, a lot of it actually happened by default. But I think somewhere, if you ask me, I went to a subject which I actually liked, and probably that's the only thing that I can tell you that it's a very dry subject. So if you like it, it'll be great. But if you don't like it and you're pushed into it, for example, if I was pushed into engineering or anything to do with math and science, probably I would have struggled. So it's about, and in my days we didn't think too much about it. Did schooling, did BCom, and then did law, etc. Did my solicitors. But now you guys have you get a lot of tools in terms of coming to that conclusion. Though I think in law, um, so in my daughter's school, I was there was a something called a career guidance, and they used to get parents from different walks of life and give live guidance to students who are 10th, 11th, 12th grade. And most of the kids who came for law, and I did that for many years, would basically be pretty unsure because you have to choose law after 12th standard. And at that point of time, people are doing different things, and there are horizons are quite wide. So that is a big issue for you guys. But kudos to you guys that early on you know what you guys want to do, and I think so long as you're chosen based on your liking, everything should be all right.
But also if your story is not interesting, then I don't know what is, because it's filled with ups and downs. But finally you say that you now that you have closed the second largest M&A deal of India, that too with your youngest startup, your youngest brainchild, that is Veritas Legal. So I just want you to take us through the journey of how mergers and acquisitions have been throughout your life. What all anecdotes can you share with us? And if there has been any moment wherein you thought maybe we'll lose this client, or maybe this won't be grabbed by us, this deal won't be grabbed by us, and how did you come up with a solution? So any anecdotes from the field of mergers and acquisitions?
See, I can tell you M&A, and when I started my career, and as I said in early 90s, there were no specialization. India was just Manmohan Singh was the finance minister, and we were actually just opening up. So we did everything at that point in time: litigation, power projects, GDR issues, um, and M&A. So everything that came along, I don't think there was that much of specialization. I have, over a period of time, started liking M&A, and then started doing more of it, and that's how developed more experience on the subject. Um, M&A is a very big word because, first of all, it has mergers and acquisitions. People only talk about acquisitions popularly, they don't talk about mergers. But it's part of it, that is one part of it. The second aspect is, um, I don't know, it's not a subject by itself, because in M&A, you got to be proficient at a lot of things, right? You got to be proficient in contract act, you got to be proficient in employment laws, now antitrust laws. May not be specialized, but you must have a flavor and knowledge or basic knowledge of a lot of laws, because M&A is an all-encompassing proposition. Because when you do an M&A, you will touch upon many such laws. Um, and the next part would be that M&A has a lot of interface. In other words, there is negotiation, there's a human element, there is a anticipatory, I would say, talent that is required as you grow older, as to where the negotiating spots are, where the vulnerabilities are. So there is a human element to it. So in a sense, it's a blockbuster. Um, so I really liked it because no one deal is like the other. While there is a pattern and the basics of M&A, but it tends to be pretty dynamic, and that aspect of that really attracted me and continues to attract. And I'm still a student, I guess, on that.
Right, right.
Right.
So just to follow up, I would like to ask you one more question. So, which has been the most challenging deal you have worked on, and what made it challenging? And any case where you had to come up with a out of the box solution to make the deal happen. So,
So, I mean, I have done so many deals. A lot of them were challenging on different aspects in terms of the legal challenge, structural challenge, um, bandwidth challenge, intensity challenge, uh, type of client challenge, lots of challenge, right? But I would concentrate on, I mean, at a level it'd be difficult to remember, but one deal which was, mm, and I would not confuse challenging deal with a large deal. A large deal can be challenging, but not necessarily that every large deal is challenging. A lot of challenging deal may not be large deals. But I think one thing that comes to my mind is the merger of Satyam into Tech Mahindra that we did. It's before your time, but you see the ILFS issues just now, but that was probably the first corporate fraud of that size in India. So and we were not involved in terms of when Satyam was taken over by the government, and then they sold it to Tech Mahindra. But when all that was done, Satyam was folding into Tech Mahindra, and we had to anticipate. So it's like a war room, right? Before you go into something like that, that that the main proposition is to anticipate as to where all the challenges can come from, because acquisitions tend to go privately, and therefore if things go wrong, you only come to know later that things went wrong. In a merger or a reorganization, you have to do it through the courts, and therefore every challenge is an upfront challenge. And therefore we had to anticipate. I think there were some 28 petitions that were filed by the erstwhile promoter Raju, and there were enforcement directorate, and if I am not wrong, there was CBI, and all those objections were there, and we had to navigate through two courts. I think one in Hyderabad and one in Mumbai, and I think it was the most satisfying part for me was that when I look back when we started, howsoever difficult it was for the clients to hear that what kind of challenges can arise, it was a very satisfying experience that we were able to give them probably every challenge that came. And therefore there was the first satisfaction that one could visualize, that in a challenging transactions, you anticipated well as to where the attacks will come from. The second part of that's one part to say, okay, I know where the attacks came from, and great, it came from those quarters, so great. But the fact is, now we got to fight that war through the courts, and we fought step by step, and we got an order, and I think it was a thumping order without any adverse material, adverse comments or anything of ruling, and we got that thing done. So it was a very satisfying experience. It's like going into a war zone, crossing the border and coming out on the other side, knowing fully where that you are going, that and you come out absolutely clean without any casualty. Um, and you could probably anticipate every bullet that came from every side. So that was actually not only challenging but greatly satisfying.
Right, great. So
And if I'm not wrong, it got it was awarded the most innovative deal by the Financial Times at that point of time.
Wow. That is a roller coaster of an M&A, and I mean it's much more than an M&A now. It's all about legal fights and ego issues and whatnot. So I guess it must have been really challenging, though. Great that
Yeah,
you were a part
it's
of it.
but every acquisition, I mean, it's challenging in its own part. That's the fun.
Right, right.
right,
This is also very glamorous, right? Because Satyam is looked at as a very nefarious part of it, because now several of its scams came about. But while you were dealing with it, so Satyam would have been a really glamorous deal to work upon, right?
Well, I've never thought uh, ever in my career that this is glamorous, this is large, this is going to be a part of front page of papers, etc., etc. I think I've just enjoyed whatever came along. Equally, very small deals have also been pretty challenging. So, well, I've never approached it that way.
right.
All
So
right, great.
that is what that is what what I mean to say is, when a lawyer enjoys his work, so that is what should be the focus. So so when one chooses law, what you rightly said, is not choosing the field of law whether or not it makes to the top of the headlines or not. So it's actually the work. So regarding the work, while researching, I also got to know you also have a very good practice in wills and trusts, or as they call it, private client practice. So, do you see any new legal, new amendments to the legal framework governing that area of law?
Well, that area of law, I don't think, frankly, it will pick up very much till you get the estate duty or what is called as inheritance tax, because there used to be a practice in that. And if you see last 20, 25 years, the Indian entrepreneur is working to create wealth. Now that some sort of wealth has been created as a country, one see that how do you pass on that wealth, and therefore these issues of trust and wills, etc., are arising. Again, this is a function of being a trusted advisor. So while one can package this as private client practice, and but the fact is that in India it still remains very personalized in terms that if you are a trusted advisor to the person, then this is a practice that follows. Very difficult to go up to a person and say, I'll do your will and trust, right? But having said that, the Indian Trust Act, uh, at least on the trust side, as you know, how old is it? 1888 or what is that? Some 1800 as yet. So obviously, it's a very robust piece of legislation. But obviously, this has to evolve, and some amount of facilitating amendments to that would be a good idea. Um, uh, the second part, in the evolution of trust is, this what you call as letters of wishes and uh, you know things which are on the Western jurisprudence, trodden paths, probably over a period of time needs to come here and get recognized. So I won't say one amendments, but I think a lot of facilitating proposition, and also I think one has to how do I put it? There has to be a regulatory acceptance to these things, because it is every will or a trust is not a device to avoid taxes or to avoid liabilities or insulation of liabilities, right? And therefore, there is a legitimate exercise. If somebody has wealth, they may want to see how he or she wants it to perpetuate, and therefore, this suspicion that surrounds that every such um kind of a structure is malignant also needs to change. There's some amount of mindset change also may be necessary.
Right, right. So I'm glad. So you could answer it very specifically. So those are the amendments which we should see.
As far as now coming to the next question, sir, you always emphasize in several of your interviews that you were very fond of the growing up phase, which led you to jump out of a well settled job and start a new venture all out of zilch. So just to emphasize more on that, how did it feel first of all to work with Cyril Shroff and Zia Modi in the initial stages of the legal giants that we see today, and how does it now feel to be a giant yourself? I mean, so how has the journey been?
But I think as far as talking about Cyril Shroff and Zia Modi, I think these are exemplary minds and unique individuals. I have been blessed to have worked with them personally very closely, because my interaction with them was at the time when their careers were also growing. So as I said, when I joined Amarchand, we were only 4 to 5 juniors, and Mr. Shroff was himself around 34, 35 years old. And just being by his side, and the growth story that India took. Similarly, with Zia, when I joined in 2001, we had around 10, 15 people, and that was also from there. She has grown exponentially, and these are um, if I may say, larger than life individuals now, and I have been lucky that I have, worked very closely and personally with them over the years, and of course, hopefully, have imbibed some of the qualities. But as I said, they continue to amaze me even today in terms of their passion, their knowledge, their drive, and that's still a lot of it is aspirational for me.
Great, great, great. Right.
Right, right. So one more follow-up question I would like to ask you. So as you put more emphasis on the growing up phase when a venture is growing up, so I heard there are many struggles which one faces while building a law practice. So what were those struggles which you faced? So while building that law practice, not only, I mean, throughout various firms you have worked for, and throughout 27 years of your legal career, the struggles while building a law practice.
Uh, I think I won't look. I enjoy that phase, so I don't call it as struggles. But obviously, and I can tell you that when you climb, let's say when you come out of law school, and if you join a firm which is growing, etc., it's not much of a struggle, because actually in a growing firm, your exposure to work, your exposure to different types, or rather quality of work, the trust and the autonomy that comes on you is much higher. Sun shines a little harder, and therefore, um, if one can, you can really pick up in this growing firm. So I've been lucky. So these are not really challenges, but as you grow in life, and you start getting comfortable and settled in environments, um, to leave that and then go back to zero and or to again start constructing, I think that is the biggest struggle to my mind. The struggle to undo things which are working well um, is the biggest struggle, and that's a struggle in the mind. Insofar as when starting and building new things, I think it's a very enjoyable journey, and you don't build alone, you build with people, and you create a culture. It's a so every growth phase that people, or the initial phase, is a very charming part of life, and I'm sure that even other lawyers who've gone through that, that would be a very if I may say, as I said, charming part of your career. So I don't see it as struggle. I actually enjoy it.
It more or less becomes an addiction, right? I mean, when you
No, it's not an addiction. It's
no,
not an addiction of any sort. You enjoy it, but it's the how do I put it? The struggle is uh, undoing, re-challenging yourself, reinvesting yourself, reinventing yourself, etc. Because every stage, wherever you are, whether in personal or in the firm, it requires for some amount of reinvention of yourself, because that's the only time that you can grow. Even if you are within the large firm, if you continue to do the same thing for 20 years, your role has to change. You have to bring something more to table than what you brought last year or 5 years back. How are you going to do that? So that part is, to my mind, the most challenging. The comfort zone, coming out of comfort zone, and I'm not saying in a dramatic way, but even if you are within a firm, that is the most challenging part. After
right.
that, yes, you're out in the sun and then you have to make it happen. But some people enjoy it. I do.
So, one quote which I can recall of, I think a law practice industry is similar to a trek. So, when people climb mountains, so they say after the hardest climbs, it comes the best view. So, only after the hardest climb, after going to that hard work, after that passion, after reinventing yourself, as you say, that is when the best view comes in. So, to get out of that best view and again start from zero. So, I mean, that is what I can recall of. So, it's very well put by you.
So I
Right.
hope I have answered your question.
Yeah, sure. You have very well, in fact. So this brings us to the next part of the interview, which we call the on your fingertips round. That is where we bring in the fun in the interview. So, so Rajas, over to you.
Yeah, I mean, we try to bring the fun part. I mean, now time will tell how much fun you go through. So, starting with the first question, like it's very interesting that you named your firm as Veritas Legal. Take us through how what else names did you consider while naming it?
Actually, like many things in life, we really didn't plan to name. But the one thing that we knew, or at least I knew, that I wouldn't have my name on the door. It's
Right,
going to be a generic name. Because when we started, we were only four of us. And in fact, my colleagues kept telling me to put my name. Uh, and I said no. And so that was the one aspect. And secondly, we kept debating because, it's not always a very idealistic proposition, which I realized that you have to get a URL, then you have to get the name, then my
right,
colleagues said that I want to check it with someone whether it's a nice name or not nice name, good name, and all that. So all that, and to have some meaning and to put all those things. And we kept on debating till a client came and said that tomorrow we are starting this matter, so we need to sign an engagement letter. The one thing that we'll need you to have is the name. So you tell me tonight, or tomorrow morning we have to go somewhere else. So that's how. So it came, and people said said this is good, and we went along. So there was really not too much thought process outside of the fact that I didn't want my name on the door.
right. So talking of young things, so what are your like the most cherished achievements of yours in the practice that you had over 27 years?
Achievements yet to come.
Oh no, but the cherished moments, like you say, building up phase. So like something
Yeah,
of that sort.
cherish moments. I mean, it's been um, those moments with colleagues at in the time that you are growing the practice, when you are going through the struggle, you the team coming together and making the sacrifices. Um, some of the very touching moments. But I remember when I started Veritas, and I had an iPhone which was, these iPhones don't last, or they're not meant to last.
Right.
It was cranking up, and we had just started, and I kept. So we had invested everything, what we had to in the firm, and then this phone kept cranking up, and I won't change the phone. Not that I could not, but I had not thought about it. But it was a difficult problem. It'll get heat up and will get cut. And my colleagues just went down one day and got me a phone. He said that I know that you are so stressed at this point of time that you are not going to get a phone. So this is what you need, is to take it out and you give this back to us. So I think there are so many such,
Wow.
human um, moments which are good. And I think the most cherished part is creating a culture.
Certainly, certainly. The iPhone story is more inspiring than that of Steve Jobs, I guess.
There's nothing inspiring about it, but these are all, it's a personal
No, no,
touching moment.
just a way to say it. But that's great. I mean, those are certainly cherishing, and I hope we also experience such moments whenever we get out of our law school. So
You will,
it's great, great, great.
you will. Once you come out in the sun, you'll realize. Everybody has their own experiences.
Right? I mean, I also agree with the fact that be it any workplace, it has to have a very good working culture. So as you rightly put, culture is the. I mean, as you also quoted in one of your interviews that culture is the most important thing, which will attract talent and retain that talent and make the mark on the map. So keeping other things constant. So this brings to the next question. So what would you name your autobiography? So if you
Autobiography. I guess I wonder what will be the audience who read it. But if I was to, I guess, as I said, I mean, there are lots of things in my mind, a lot of things to together achieve. It would be probably the first sentence of Robert Frost's poem, Woods are lovely, dark and deep. And then you do dot, dot, dot. The full poem is lovely, dark and deep, but there are promises to keep and miles to go before you sleep. So obviously this is a big title. So you just have to say the woods are lovely, dark and deep, and dot, dot, dot.
right again referring to your be it any interaction, be it in a form of video or be it in type of a written interview. So I mean, I you know I kind of like many of your quotes. So there are many quotes which can be put onto a shirt. That for example, don't learn the tricks of the trade, learn the trade itself, or quotes like that. So if there is a shirt to be made, then if there is a shirt to be made having a quote said by you, so which would that quote be? So
I don't know. This is a quote said by me, or I mean, my younger colleagues. I mean, I think many years back they had compiled what I used to say, and then a lot of it was actually a joke on me as well. So they would say, "Okay, now you had two drinks. Now let me show you what you say." So even now they do it all the time. There are so many, so many. I mean, yeah, that is actually my favorite one. Somebody had given to me, "Don't learn the tricks of the trade, learn the trade." And then they say, oh, you've created a decent firm. How do you do it? And this, that. And then you say, well, this one I actually like. You don't confuse a bull market. You don't confuse a genius with a bull market. This is a bull market.
Wow.
This is a bull
It
market.
looks
You
like
don't confuse a genius with a bull market.
it looks like straight out of a of an American sitcom. I mean, it's so
Yeah, yeah, but it's
so
true. It's
happy
true.
in that sense.
It's true. In a bull market, it doesn't mean that you have to be a genius, right? Just the velocity
Right,
takes you up. And then people
right,
attribute all that success to themselves, but actually it's not. It's the bull market.
great.
Right.
Right. So I guess with that, that we end the very like the fondest of our interviews which we had till now. Of all the
Thank you.
guests we had the pleasure of hosting you on the show, and certainly I guess we'll be the ones who will be launching the merchandise featuring your quotes on it very soon, and we'll also deliver the same to your office. We'll also get in
These
touch
are
with
not
the
my
HR
quotes.
first.
Huh? These are not my quotes. Somebody must have said it somewhere. I have really not created or invented these.
No, no, I mean, no, that's a different thing. But I mean, whatever that is, we are too starstruck to even have done this interview in the first place, and we are glad that you ended up here. You agreed to the show, and I guess whoever watches this will make sure to notice that how nervous we were in the beginning, but certainly you were very kind enough. And yes, it was a great pleasure to have you on the show, and I hope we have another conversation really soon. That too in your office while we try to get a job.
Please, please, please come over. Once this is all over, we can certainly have a cup of coffee together. And you guys have a bright future. So do one thing, just believe in yourself. The rest will follow.
Right.